Today, I'm gonna find out what an average OSU player looks like, and we're gonna find out how good the average OSU player is. OSU is a game where you click circles with precision, and if you fail to be precise, well, of course, make sure to subscribe and like because this video took me a fair amount of effort to produce. Also, let me know in the comments if you guys think you're better than the average player, because the results, well, they may surprise you. When you think of average, you probably think of a lower skilled player, or maybe you think of a fairly proficient player. That is most likely because the ranking system is skewed. A game like Apex Legends, for example, although not entirely comparable to OS, has a ranking distribution which follows a bell-shaped distribution curve. Lower skilled players and very high skilled players on the extremes, and a large group of mediocre or average players in the middle. With OSU, this bell gets warped or skewed because there are millions of accounts with very little PP, and only a small fraction, maybe the top 1%, have the higher numbers. So the 1% of players in OSU might have 90% of the total PP values. So all the PP, all the skill gets concentrated higher into the higher extreme towards the left. So in order to calculate the average more accurately, I'm using players around the median, or players right in the middle of the rankings instead. Except instead of calculating the middle or average player, which would represent a very newbie player. Alright, now before we get into the final results, we need to know what I based the calculations on. Now in previous videos I calculated the player base to be players that had a couple hours at least of playtime. Although there have been 27.5 million account creations in OSU, only a small fraction of these are currently represented on the online ranking system on osu.ppy, and this is because most of those accounts have not really uploaded any scores or have not uploaded any scores in a very long time. So right now, the ranking system only displays up to 3.5 million accounts, and if we go by just a couple hours of gameplay, then we narrow that down to around 2.5 million accounts. However, many of these accounts still only have a couple scores and still only have like 30 minutes of playtime. So, because in today's video we're trying to give you something to compare with, we're not going to be including Jimmy, who will never come back to his account. Alright, who played 30 minutes and will never come back to his account. Yeah, we're going to be going up even further, so that you watching right now compare yourself to a fairly active players who have somewhat of a clue of how to play the game. So now the minimum requirements are at least 1000 PP total ranked score, which basically is the threshold of 6 digits. So around 950,000. So instead of playtime and raw hours, we're just going to go enough submitted scores to break into the 6 digits. In the purpose of this video, I'm going to be calculating average players around 450 to 490,000. When I did the calculations, I considered factors like obviously ranking, the top play of each account, the accuracy of each account, the play count, and hours played. I took data from 60 different accounts on a randomized basis. Now, this isn't a strict mathematical average, but it's probably closer to what most people mean when they say the average player. By looking at the middle of the rankings, we get a better representation of the typical OSU player. So, what you've all clicked on this video for, the final results. So, again, I selected 60 players around the median between ranks 450 to 490k. The average ranking of the 60 players in the sample size was 472,018. The top play of the average player was 124 PP. The average accuracy was 94.1%, play count was 10,000, and hours played was 156 hours. Now these figures are just rough estimates based on my own interpretations of average player. Obviously, there are much more accurate and precise ways to determine the true average, but this should provide a rough idea. So, are you better than the average, or do you have to log a couple more hours before you achieve such numbers? And as always, subscribe and stay tuned for the next upload.